Hey guys, what's going on? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 28 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today I want to briefly talk to you about Showcase Presents Supergirl Volume 1. This is a huge tome collecting like 500-something pages of Supergirl appearances from the late 50s, early 60s. I'm not going to tell you what issues are collected here because there's a whole bunch of them. There's a few Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen's thrown in there. There's a few Action Comicses. There's at least one issue of Lois Lane, I think, but mostly it's Adventure Comics issues that have Supergirl doing Supergirly things. And that sounded weird. I don't mean like Supergirl. I mean things that Supergirl would do. Anyway, so if you are a huge fan of the Supergirl TV show, which I've seen a few episodes of, but I'm not an expert on the show or anything, but you were thinking, this show is really cool, I want to see what this character's about in the comics, and you're thinking, I'm going to go back to the very beginning, where Supergirl first started, and I'm going to read everything I can about this character and see if it's anything like the TV show. First of all, this is not anything like the TV show. This is very different. Second of all, if you're not used to reading comics from the late 50s, especially from DC Comics, they can be very slow. A lot of people would even go so far as to say they can be very boring. The word I would use is they are formulaic. You could read one issue of Supergirl and you could be entertained, but then if you read 30 issues of Supergirl, you're going to eventually see that a lot of these issues are pretty much hitting the same notes, and they just keep repeating that note over and over and over again. And so if you're reading this much Supergirl over a short period of time, you might get bored. I got bored a little bit, but it's not a bad read. There's some really enjoyable stuff here. One thing that I really love about the Silver Age, both at Marvel and DC, is that the creators were extremely inventive. They were always just throwing stuff at the wall, a lot of times not even intending for that thing to be a huge deal later on. The Silver Age is what gave us stuff like the Phantom Zone, different colors of kryptonite, it gave us Supergirl, it gave us Krypto, it gave us a lot of elements of the Superman mythos that we kind of just take for granted now. And I can't think of the last time that new interesting elements were added to the Superman mythos, for instance, and just experimented with and played with and developed and stuff like that. Usually it's just like, let's use these elements that were invented 50 years ago and let's not do anything new and different. So I really like that aspect of this book. But if you are a fan of the Supergirl show, this is a very different kind of status quo. Supergirl comes to Earth as a teenager, maybe 14 or 15. She's kind of on the young side of being a teenager, and you would think that that would provide a lot of really interesting elements for drama, because she comes to Earth as an alien, unlike her cousin, who comes to Earth as a baby, and he grew up with all this Earth customs, so he doesn't have any problems fitting in as a human being. You would think that she would, and if this series started brand new today, they would definitely play it like that, where she's an alien and she's trying to blend in, but she's not really very good at it, because on her world, this is how we do things. They would do a lot of that if they were doing this today, but here, she pretty much just immediately picks up on it, unfortunately, because I do think that that would have been an interesting way to play her character, but the way that they play her is she comes to Earth and she says, okay, a chunk of Krypton actually broke off from the planet before Krypton itself exploded, and we were safe for a little while, and then we called it Argo City, and then Argo City starts to fall apart and everyone's about to die, so then my dad, your uncle, he sends me to Earth, and then Superman says, okay, here's what we're going to do. You have a Supergirl costume, you are going to be my secret weapon. If Lex Luthor or Brainiac decides to kill me, or they finally do kill me, then you are going to come out of the woodwork and you are going to defeat them, and they won't know that you exist, and then they will be defeated. And so Superman is like, you can fight crime on this world, but nobody can know that you exist. And that's kind of dark and a little weird. That sounds a lot like something that people who don't know a lot about Batman, that sounds like something that they would think that Batman would do. It's a really strange thing to see in the Silver Age, which a lot of people think of as being very bright and shiny and happy, but here we have Superman straight up calling his cousin his secret weapon, and then throughout the whole book, Supergirl is always worried that she's going to disappoint her cousin, and she's always like, okay, maybe this time he's going to reveal me to the world, and he's like, yeah, I'll do that, and then something happens, it's like, oh, no, we can't reveal you just yet. And you've heard of Superman being just a total jerkwad to like Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen. You can Google Superman covers where like Jimmy Olsen is giving Superman a robe for Christmas, and Superman's like, no, I'll just burn this in front of Jimmy. You get a little bit of that here, where Superman is kind of a jerk to Supergirl, and then she'll pull a prank on him, he'll pull a prank on her. Just really weird stuff from the Silver Age that would fly a lot differently today, where people would say, oh wow, Superman is being a real anus today. Stuff like that. You get a lot of that in this book. But overall, if you are looking for some really interesting stuff with Supergirl that is very different from the Supergirl that we have today, either on TV or in the comics, then you might enjoy this book. Like I said, very different from the Supergirl we have today. This is a character who's gone through a lot of changes over the years. I would say just from her introduction here all the way up to where she died in 85 or 86 in Crisis, she went through a lot of changes just during that period. And then she's gone through quite a few changes since then when she was reintroduced as Kara Zor-El in 2005, 2006, something like that. Anyway, this is a character who's gone through a lot of changes, and if you want to see how she was handled back in the 50s and 60s, maybe more from a historical perspective instead of an entertainment perspective, this would be a great book for you to check out. I'm not saying you're going to enjoy all of it, but you might enjoy it more than you think you would. So I would say give it a shot, maybe. That's a very lukewarm recommendation. I'm not trying to be that lukewarm, I'm just trying to lay out the facts. But anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to check out all the other videos that I'm going to be doing for the rest of this year, and wish me luck as I continue the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. In the meantime, I will see you guys tomorrow with another video. Have a great rest of the day.